All right, guys. So I hope I'm audible clearly to you. Can you say yes? So I will just go ahead.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
For me, it's yes.
So I'm Anuj, and today we are here for Palo Alto Firewall session. So let me understand you first that are you guys aware of this CCNA level of knowledge in the networking or not? Because this is very essential. If you don't have this much of knowledge of CCNA, it is going to be a tough time for you going ahead with the firewalls. So, do you have some basic knowledge? I mean, you don't have the certification for that one, but at least you have knowledge of networking, subnetting, are what are they? So, do you have some basic understanding?
Yes,
Yeah.
Anuj.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
yes.
that's great. So, let me just tell you basically that what is the difference between the firewall and other packet devices you are having. So it will be easy for you. Okay. So basically, just because we are starting from scratch, so you should be able to understand that what is the difference between the things, other devices, and the firewall. So I just switch on to the switch first. So if you know the switches, what they do, they make this is a layer 2 device, and this makes a decision based on the MAC address table. So if you have basic understanding of networking, you know that what is this MAC address table. So any of the frame comes, it comes to switches, and then the decisions are being taken via switch that on which interface or on which VLAN it has to be sent. If we come to layer 3, that is our routers. These are all packet based devices, right? So routers is our layer 3 device that also process the packets, and this looks on the IP routing table. Like any of the packet is coming, it lookups the destination IP address that where it should go, and based on its IP routing table, it takes the decision that on which interface it should go out, and it just send it to that interface. Now, if we come to the firewall, what it does, this is normally a flow-based device. If we talk about the flow-based, so some of the things of the firewall are also being done via the routers. Let us suppose we are having the access control list. They are ACL, right? So you can block some of the users based on the source IP address, or if you want to restrict some of the destination addresses which are not to be accessed by the user. So we can take these decisions via routers using ACL, access control list. So these terminologies can be different by the different vendors. So this is like Cisco uses the ACL, Juniper uses some other terminologies, and some other networking company may use some others terminology as well. So I think somebody was asking that it is being recorded or not. So yes, it is. It is live on YouTube as well. So it will be stored there. You can watch it later on as well. And now when it comes to the firewall, so it does the all the features of the switches. It means that we have inbuilt switches inside the firewall. We have the routing things inside the firewall. It means that it contains the routing table as well. It may take decision based on its source and destination IP address, as well as what it does, which these devices doesn't do, because these two devices comes between L1 to L3, right? Now, this is also including from L4 to L7. So now the question comes at what is that difference between these two? So for that, What we say, there's two types of firewall currently. Some of them are legacy firewall, and another type we call it as a next gen firewall. So what are the legacy firewalls? They are taking decisions from L1 to, or in fact, I should also include L4 because they are taking the decisions based on the port number as well. So whenever the port is included, then we take the layer 4, right? So L1 to L4, these are legacy firewalls, which just takes the decision based on L1 to L4. But they do not take care of the L7. Let us suppose any of the firewall want to take decision based on the URL filtering or what are the file types are traveling. Let us suppose you want to block any of the PDF file or you want to block .exe or executable files on your network or your company, then you don't have capabilities on your routers or the legacy firewalls that they can block it. For that, you have to go to next generation firewalls. So this is like very prominent questions being asked in interviews, that what is the difference between the legacy firewall and next generation firewall. So now I think you understand that what is the difference between them. So cut it short, our Palo Alto firewall is a next generation firewall. It takes the decision or it has the capability to control the traffic from L1 to L7. It make uses of like routing, switching, and as well as all the features of file blocking, app ID, and all. So these all the things can be done via Palo Alto Firewall. Let's move further back to our blue color. And if I talk about the flow based here, flow means whenever any of the traffic is being initiated, let us suppose this is our firewall, and let me say that this is our internal network on left hand side. I think the font size are visible, guys, right?
Yes.
Okay, true. And this can be your outside. And if any of the user is requesting any of the packet from here, or I think let me change the color so that will make you look good. Oh, it's all gone. Let me take eraser here. So if any of the user is requesting any packet or any like request is going from inside zone to outside. So as any of the packet goes to the firewall, will check its security policy. We have some of the policies installed in the firewall, right? It will just check that whether this user, which as having some of the IP addresses, or if we have the policy based on its username, then it will check its user whether this user is allowed to go outside or not first, and then to which destination. Let us suppose he is trying to access any news website, and we have a policy to allow to reach to news website, then it will go. But if he is trying to access, let us suppose YouTube, and you have a policy in your company that users are not allowed to access YouTube, then it will be blocked here in the firewall. You will not be allowed to access YouTube. So this is like one type of request that, because you are requesting something from your firewall first time, there is a no records in the firewalls that whether you are accessing it or not. So if the packet is coming the first time, so it will take a decision that whether you have to allow it or not. Let us suppose you are trying to access a news site. Now what is happening, you requested from inside to outside any news website, and now news server is replying you back, right? So there will be some return traffic because you are reading some web page. So some return traffic will be coming. Now it is the feature of, or you can say the benefit of the firewall, that it will not check this again in the security policy. Why? Because the request was initiated from our inside, or we can say the trust zone, for which we already have explicitly security policy to allow the traffic. We will not require to configure one more security policy for the return traffic. So now the question comes that how this thing can be maintained, that the request has been known or it is like coming the first time, right? So it can be like the already we have requested, or this request is coming the first time. Now you have to differentiate it between these two. So for that, we are maintaining a session. So as we are here maintaining as here MAC address, IP routing, here we are maintaining the session table. Like if any of the request is going from trust to untrust, or from inside to any zone, in fact, then that session is being installed in the firewall. The firewall maintains its session, that whether this user has been permitted or not. Once the return traffic will be coming, it will look up on its session that whether this request is a new, or it has already been requested and this is a reply packet. So this can be understand very clearly if you know the TCP three-way handshake. Anyone aware of this TCP three-way handshake? Or let me ask that till now, if you have any question, let me know. Are you guys getting it, or you have any questions?
Yeah. Hi, Anuj.
Hi, yeah.
I have a question. Like that session, where is it stored? Like in firewall session table.
If you have gone through the firewall, it is like session browser, you can say, or it is speak on the memory, you can say, and there it is being installed. If you
Okay.
check the Palo Alto Firewall specifically, you can look to the session browser. There is
Hmm.
a tab, and there you can see that which are the sessions are running,
Okay.
and whatever
Okay.
the traffics are being allowed or passing through, that you can see on the traffic window. So basically, we can see the sessions on this session browser tab. So once we look on
Okay.
the GUI later on, then we will see
Mhm.
that how
Yeah.
the session will be done.
Thank you.
So let me clear that. So as you are asking less questions, so am I teaching very good, or you're not getting anything? How is it that I'm not teaching good, or you're getting everything? At least say yes or no, so I will get something. Guys, are you there?
Yes, yes, you're teaching good.
Oh, okay. So at least say yes or no, so it just gives me confidence. Okay, that how I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah, we have text a message, Anuj.
Oh, I think let me check it. So because when I'm teaching, I'm just a little bit focused on that. Let me keep checking the messages as well. Okay, that's fine. I will just have a look on that. Yeah. Yes. So if you know about the TCP three-way handshake, what is happening that if any of the TCP request is going, right? So first, what is happening? The SYN bits one packet is being sent to the server. So it is like you are initiating a request. If any of the machine here is sending traffic to any web server, right? So what it will do, it will send a packet with SYN bit on. What happens with the server if you are sending a request on port number, let us suppose 443, or be specific, let us suppose port 8080. And if that service is running on that server, what it will do, it will reply with SYN plus tech, that it will acknowledge it, okay, that I have received your SYN bit, and now it will reply its own SYN bit, and this will be traveling back to the user. And once it receives this requester, this user synac, then once again it will acknowledge it, okay, I have got your request. So this is called like three-way handshake. So this is the first way, this is second, return traffic, and once again we are returning it back to the server. So that's why we call it as a three-way handshake. So once it is TCP three-way handshake is done, then the session is installed. We check it, okay, the session is being initiated. So that's what it is happening in the TCP three-way handshake. Now, if you take any of the firewall in general, I'm not talking about the specifically for the Palo Alto firewalls. So, or in any of the organization, what they basically do, we are having three types of zone. They can be multiple. We usually divide it, but yeah, majority of these type of things are like trust, untrust. So trust is our type of like internal network, which is known to us. We are very confident about it. Okay, this is my network. While untrust can be said as an internet, where you don't know that these users are legitimate, or it can be malicious user attackers. Like lot of guys can be there, right? Another type of zone is our DMZ. So DMZ is type of demilitarized zone where most of the servers are residing. So why we put it as a DMZ? Because some of the users from internet can be accessing this. So that's why we put it like less security on these servers, or we put it as like demilitarized zone, less security as compared to our internal networks. Now, if we talk about the general concepts or what we configure on the firewalls, we usually allow traffic from internal to internet, or let me choose a color. We usually allow communication from here to there. We do not restrict users to go to internet until unless they are not using any explicit or block categories. Let us suppose they are trying to use any adult category or gambling or any like what else could be like the social networking also nowadays are blocked, or entertainment is also blocked. So it just depends on the policy of your company, what are the things you want to restrict or what are the things you want to allow. So these can be blocked, remaining all can be allowed. So like we allow communication but block some of the specific categories of website that please do not allow access to these websites. Another thing, like from untrust to DMZ servers. So this is also usually allowed, but that also depends on this AAA. AAA stands for the authentication, authorization, and accounting.
Or-
So I think you are aware of this term, or you are not. You want me explain more on this?
Yeah, we know that.
You know it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes I hear it no, sometimes hear it as yes. So we want me to explain or no? Guys, just like try to explain. So if you write yes, I'm little confused that whether you. Want me to explain, or if you don't, okay, that's right. I know it. Or you can speak also. You can unmute yourself and you can speak. That's not a problem. Explain, please. Okay, fine. So here, the AAA, the first is our authentication. So, guys, I understand that some of the guys might be knowing it, but let's take the least person who knows less so that everybody can be on the par. So, the first thing is like authentication. Whenever we are configuring, let us suppose this is a banking server or any of the banking website, the very first thing is like authentication. Any of the user from internet is coming to here any web banking website, what I will do, you will like open the page, but in order to application, in order to access more things or your accounts and everything, the very first thing is required the authentication, that are you the authenticated user to access those resources or not. So that is our authentication, that okay, you have some uh, identity, you have your username and password, based on that one we verified you, okay, you are the authenticated user, then I give you the permission to access some more resources, right? So this is our authentication. Another type is our authorization. So authorization is basically like how much permission or how much limit or access you have in your account. Let us suppose you are a banking customer, right? So what you can do, you logged on to the website, you checked your balance, you uh, checked your transactions, what is there. But if it comes to change your address of your communication, you might not be allowed. You're not authorized to change your communication address to your bank account, or in fact of yours. So for that one, what can we do? You need a bank employee, right? Who is the bank user or who is working on the bank. They have authorization or they have access to change your address. So what you do, you just request them, you make a call or you upload some of the documents. Now they will amend those addresses or the values in your bank account, and next time when you log on, those changes will be reflected. So you don't have authority to change the address, but you have authorization to check your balance. So this is like a permissions things, that your authenticated user, you are good, but you are allowed to do certain type of things, but you're not allowed to do certain type of things. So this is like happening in the uh, routers. Let us suppose you are allowed to configure certain parameters. Let us suppose you want to see some of the things, you can run the show command, but you cannot run the config command. So you're not authorized to make changes on your routers or on the firewalls, but you are allowed to see what are the configuration out there. So this is type of authorization we have. The third A stands for accounting, and accounting is basically about the logs, that what are the things you are doing here, that is telling you the logs. So whatever we are doing, we are authenticating, you are authorized, being authorized, you are doing changes. Now it's your responsibility to log the things, what is happening and what is not happening. So if any incident happens or any good or bad guys do something good or bad, then we can trace back it to that why it has happened. So for every authentication and authorization, we take a record, we account all those information, we keep logs. We are having a lot of logging servers and log forwarded. Like, so we use the external log servers as well. They are having in TVs of data. They are storing logs, that whatever even single change you are doing, you're just clicking some of the things you are committing, or whatever the things you are doing, doing, they are being recorded under the accounting, so that if any thing happens, then we can track back to you. It does not mean that you are working in any banking environment, you done some transactions, you transferred millions of money in your account, and you just gone. Nobody can track you. Even uh, every small things are tracked, and you can trace it back that okay, this guy has done this transaction, it has been transferred from your account to that account. Similar things to like any of the firewalls or routers, that if you are making any changes in the configuration, you made any device down, you put some firewall for your firewall down, we can track it back to you that okay, this guy has made these changes. Sometimes what people do, they like restart some of the things, right? Let us suppose I restart my Cisco router or firewalls, then logs will be deleted, right? People may like hide themselves. So for that, we use the external logging servers. Whatever the changes you are doing, you just commit it instantly. Those logs are being forwarded to the external servers. You just burn that website firewall, you burn that router, but it's still those logs are stored on the external logging server, and you cannot touch that, you cannot delete that. So that's what people are doing, and you can be tracked it back. So that was about this AAA, and these are like standard things what we configure on these firewalls. And yeah, and one more thing, like we also have this communication allowed from internal to DMZ. But yeah, from DMZ to internal, we usually do not allow. But yeah, if it is required, then we can allow that. So for the specific some of the servers, we can allow it, but usually we do not follow that. And same thing is from the internet to internal, that is also not allowed. These are the standard rules. I'm not talking about the Palo Alto firewalls. So now let's talk about the Palo Alto firewalls, that what is happening in the Palo Alto Firewall. So for that, let's go to the default one. What are the default policies? So the first policy we are having, that is inter-zone default. So inter-zone default, this is deny. This is the default policy, which do exist on the firewall. So interzone means that if you are going from one zone to another zone, let us suppose you are in a user traffic, that is you are in the trust zone, and you are going to access the internet, and if you have not configured any of the policy, by default, you will not be allowed to access that. This is not allowed until you configure a security policy to allow users to go to internet. So this is, I'm talking about the default, that this is the default policy. Another is default policy, that is intra zone. Intra zone means within the zone, the communication is allowed. So if from any of the firewall, if the two users, they are on the trust zone, or two networks, let us suppose one user is on 10.1 or 10 network, we can say 10.0.0.0 network, another user is 172.16 something network, but both the users are on the trust interface of the firewall, then they can ping to each other. But if any of the user is on the internet and not in fact the internet, let us suppose on the DMZ, right? There is a server in the DMZ that is can be like 192.168 network, then that from trust to DMZ, by default, the communication will not be allowed because it will be hitting our interzone default policy. But for this case, we will be allowed to use resources using our intrazone default. So it's quite, I think, understanding for you. Let me switch it to the firewall. Let's have a look on the GUI, that what is there and how our Palo Alto firewall looks like. So meanwhile, any questions on it? Whatever I have just told you.
No, thank you.
Okay, that's great. Uh, This is, let me just brief you. This is like EVNG platform I use for the lab session. If you want to use it, in fact, I will highly recommend if you continue with the course, then you have to use it because without lab, you cannot do anything. Or in fact, it's really difficult to understand that what is ongoing, right? Just theory doesn't help in the real environment. You have to be very good with the hands-on. Then only you can configure the things in the drive environment. You can get a job, but if you don't do the hands-on, then it's really going to difficult that how to navigate to the GUI, right? So this is the EVNG platform. I can show you here. This you can download it free. That is not paid version. This is like EVNG, right? You can go to this. Don't go for professional. That is chargeable. Go to for community edition should be somewhere. Okay, so use that free version. You don't have to pay anything. All right. I think Pro there is somewhere I'm not getting. Okay, let me check it. The okay downloads. It's here. Let's see there. EVNG Professional, and this is a free EVNG Community Edition. So you can download it from here. There are three like sources: Google, Mega, or Zigbearer. You can use any of them to download. This is like EVNG image you are having a virtual server, but in order to run this EVNG, you also need an hypervisor. So for that, you can use VMware Workstation, but I think Workstation is not free, so you can use VMware Player. So first you have to install this VMware Player or VMware Workstation. It depends on you what you want to choose. So you just have to download first this VMware Workstation Player, install it first, and then import this EVNG on this VMware Player. And after that, once you these two things, now you need the images for the routers or the firewall, right? So that images you can get it from me. That I have those. So these things are free. You can set it up on your machine, but your laptop should be having a little configuration. Minimum is 8 GB. If you have below 8 GB, it's a really hard time to run with firewall. People have used it in the 4 GB as well, but for the firewall, it is not recommended because like it take 1 hour or two just come up. So it's really not suggested. But if you have 16 GB, then you're in the comfort zone. That is the best. You can just do two or more things parallelly. You can run HA or more firewalls together. So let me go to back to our topology here. So here I have taken a firewall, and on the firewall we are having interfaces. The one of the interface management is there, and this management interface I have connected to this PC 192.168.1.1, and here I will be accessing the GUI, or you can say the management of the firewall. The all the whatever the configurations I'll be doing on the firewall, that will I will do from here. And this user I have taken for the test traffic, that I will be initiating traffic to this machine VPC. Basically, this should be a server for the demonstration, but that is basically a PC. So I will try to set up a communication from this to this. Okay. So let me open this 192.168.1.10, and 1.10 is the IP address of this management interface. This. So if I log into this 192.168.1.10, it will open up the GUI of the firewall. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me hit it once again for your understanding. Just make sure that you are hitting this HTTPS, because it does not allow you to use the port 80. Means that our HTTP, we have to use 443. That is HTTPS. So here we go. And the password I have that admin and admin123. Once you,
So, Anuj,
yeah,
management
yeah.
interface means, uh,
Mhm.
hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, management interface means which we are providing the policies within this management interface, right? Or
This is like for accessing your firewall through an external resource. That's it. You can say
okay,
if you remember your Cisco router, you are having a port, right? I don't console port, something we call it, right? So from that console port,
yes,
we access that Cisco router, right? So that's what we can say that is a management port. Like we just connect
okay,
it,
okay,
we configure it, and just forget it. That's it.
yeah,
So that's how our GUI looks like. We are having a dashboard here. The first thing, ACC, monitor, policies, objects, network, and device. If you go to the dashboard here, we are seeing at the device name as a PAVM, management IP address, whatever we saw, we configured 192.168.1.10 that is showing here. Netmask is using, as usual, 255.255.255.0. IPv6 we have not configured, so showing as an unknown. The model I'm using the virtual machine. If you are using any 820 or 850, it will be showing here. Or if you are using the like 5000 series 5220. So these are the types of hardware we are coming. Like whenever the Palo Alto Networks is releasing, so they are releasing the hardware. So you can like buy a box of the firewall using these high end or low end devices. Another type of things like you can use it for the use the image from the PAVM, and that you can configure on your any virtual cloud. I'm using hypervisor ESXi or NSX, wherever you want, based on the space you are having. Or if you want to install on the cloud, then also you can install it using the ESXi servers. And there also you can play it with the firewall. Serial number, it is showing as unknown because we don't have a license for it. So that's why it is showing as a VM license as none. So whenever we don't have the license, we are having some limited functionalities. If you can configure everything, but just two things you cannot do. You cannot see the traffic, and like it's for the inspection. Another thing, I think for the URL filtering or something, there is some restrictions. Remaining, you can do everything. There's a chance that anyone is stopping you from configuration. You can do anything with that. Software release we are using as of now 9.0.4, and remaining thing you can see that what are the versions we are using, right? So we have just made it up. So it is the uptime, it is showing as 131. So whenever you go for the interviews, some of the users like interviewer ask that how you check the uptime of your firewall. So these are like silly questions, but they want to know that whether you have worked on the firewall or not, right?
yeah. Could you please show from the interfaces which you have shown recently?
Yeah. So
Yes.
Yes.
so these are the interfaces I was talking about. So if you see the interfaces here, then it is showing like up and down. Let us suppose this is our green. It means that it has been configured and it is working fine. Like our interface status is up. Which is in our gray color, that is not configured. And like if it will be configured and that is down, it will be showing as a red here. So as of now, there's no interface like that. But if it is there, it will be turned the color as a red. So these are the things we use it in the production environment. Sometimes people use it like interfaces, and but yeah, if we have configured the high availability, that is HA configuration, then it is the people must configure this, that it is visible, that it shows the connectivity, that how is the connectivity between the other HA pair. So if you want to close this, if you don't need it, you can close it from here. So that's how we use with the widgets. If we check the network interfaces here, So these are the interfaces I have configured as of now. So our Ethernet 1/1, that is on the 10.1.1 IP address it is having, and it is the zone it is having as a trust zone. Another interface we have Ethernet 1/3, that is having an IP address 167.16.1.1/24, but that is on the untrust zone. So this is like similar to topology we are having Ethernet 1/1 and Ethernet 1/3. So what I'm going to do, I will just set up a policy here to right now. Let's try to ping it from this machine. I think let me check the what machine it is, or let me close it. So this is IP which is having name of the VPC. That is our this interface VPC. That is 172.16.1.10, and this machine 10.1.1.10, that should be having an IP address of 10.1.1.10, right? So the default gateway is also set 10.1.1.1. Now if I try to ping it from this
I think
machine
your
to,
screen is struck, Anuj. It's showing only show up.
so is it okay now?
So could you please scroll up? Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. So this is my like computer, this 10.1.1.10. So that's what I'm having here. What I will do, I'm trying to ping our machine, this 172.16.1.10.
Ten.
So it is using our like default because we have not configured any of the security policy on the firewall. Let me show you that as well. So we are having the two default policies. The first is like intra-zone default, and another is inter-zone default. So intra-zone, if you see the policy, that is from any to any to any, and the communication, if you scroll right, it is allowed, right? And if you see the inter-zone, it is also from any source from any zone, and the communication is denied, right? So here you see that it is configured as intra-zone, means that within the zone the communication is allowed, while for the other it is denied. Or I
Thank you.
think let me zoom a bit as well. So yeah. So this is like a default policies we are having, but now I'm going to configure a new one. So I can give any name, like let us suppose TMJ policies, or like untrust rule, anything you can give, whatever the depending on your production environment or any for any application you are allowed. So you can give any name. And from the source, what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow communication from this trust. Let me give you the name that so that you do not get confused. This will be our trust zone. This is our trust, and the right side, that's I'm going to use as an untrust. So what I'm going to do, I will set up a policy to allow all users from trust zone to untrust zone. So from the source, I will use, if you see here, you are having two things, that is zone as well as the source address. So I will select users from trust zone, and any of the user having any IP address. So I have selected any. I'm not like defining that which IP address should be included, but uh, in the later stages, we will use these IP addresses as well, that which are the IP addresses to be included in this zone. And user, I'm not saying to bifurcate any, all the users I'm allow this time, any user. And destination, they want to go to the untrust zone, any application. And we are using the application default. And this is like another interview question, that what is this application default? This is being asked in the interviews. So whenever we talk about this application default, it means that whatever the application you are using, let us suppose you are using the SSL application. So you might be aware, or if you're not might be aware, SSL uses the, like here, certificate, right? So this is like a web browser feature, and it uses the default port as 443. So whenever we see configure as an application default, and we are using SSL application, by default port 443 will be allowed to pass through. But if you, what do you do, I have configured like and you observed that people have configured that they configure some ports. Like let us suppose the default port is 443, but you allowed port 80 here, right? So this will not allow the communication to go through. So we go to the services here, and we can choose service HTTP. So now you are allow, you do allow port 80, but application you are using SSL and you do allow 80. So this communication will not be allowed. You will stuck in between. So this is like default port number of that application that we do allow with the application default. You can also choose any. There is an option for any, but we prefer to put it as an application default. There is no problem with that. And in the application, we can choose whether we want to allow, deny, or drop, or reset client, reset server, or reset both client and server. So these things we can choose from the drop down. But as of now, we are going to allow this communication. And we want to log this session at the start as well. If you want to configure any of the external log forwarding server, like directly, let us suppose you are using Splunk, you can forward those logs to the directly to a Splunk server, or you are using the Panorama to configure or manage the logs. You can forward these logs to the Panorama. So for those, we have to create a profile, and we will attach it to here. So I click it OK. And once you click OK, you see that the policy is set up here. But by this, it does not allow the rule until we, or this is not applicable until we do not commit this configuration. It is like a candidature configuration in the Cisco route. You have configured it, but you have not put the right on that, right? So that will not take effect. So similar to here in the Palo Alto firewall, it does not take into effect until we do not commit it. So I commit it here. If you commit it, there are two options coming. That's commit all changes or commit changes made by me. So always, if you are doing in the production environment, always select commit changes made by me, because if you commit all changes, you might commit the changes which are made by other users as well. So that might be a massive outage in your network. So we do not prefer that. We always choose this commit changes made by me. So by default, if you have bought a new firewall or you have upgraded your firewall, so this option coming is as a commit all changes. And if you do not move it to this, and you just you are in hurry, you just make commit, then this commit all changes will go in effect. So make sure that you are making commit changes made by me. I hit it commit. And now let's see the what is the communication happening. Is it allow or not? So now we see that our communication is allowed and the traffic is allowed. And if you want to see that one, so there are two things to monitor the traffic. Usually we use this traffic tab to monitor the traffic, but because of the license issues, because we don't see it here. So alternatively, we can use our session browser. We can hit it here and we can refresh the page and we can see the traffic, that whatever the traffic it is traveling through it. If we refresh it, we see that what are the things it is happening. So if you see the traffic it here, it is going from trust to untrust. IP addresses, it is using the source 10.1.1.10 to 172.16.1.10. What is the application you are using? That is ping. So it is using the port 444. So this is like something uh, and yeah, main thing like rule, it is using the untrust rule, right? What we just configured here in the policies, this untrust rule, it is using that. Oh, I think it's gone again. So like for maintaining the these logs, that's why we use some external servers so that these logs can be stored, because our firewall having a low memory, they do not store logs for very long time. And it also tells you about the, okay, let me use it here. That will be the best. So from here, you can see all these information in one window, like NAT, source, truth, and false, that what is the things it is using, source IP address. So this is like flow one and flow two. So from flow one, if you see that is going from 10.1.10 to 172.16.1.10, and flow two is 172.16.1.10 to 172.16.1.1. It is like a reverse traffic. We see it here. Now, if he comes as troubleshooting, we can just see these logs, whether it is hitting our intended firewall policy or not, whether this traffic is allowed or it is hitting like interzone default. So by default, by the like, if any of there's no security policy and the traffic is denied, you will see that your traffic is hitting interzone default. It means that it is hitting the rule interzone default. You can easily understand that the traffic is not allowed through your firewalls. So you can set up a policy or you can troubleshoot further that why it is not hitting your intended policies. It might be that you have not given the correct source IP addresses, or you have not given the correct destination IP addresses, or you have not configured the right application for that. So these things can be happen. We will be troubleshooting further. So that's quite long. I think it should finish in 1 hour, but I gone more because of some issues in between. Any questions in this, guys?
In the action you mentioned like reset compliant and the server, right?
Hmm.
So the reset configuration is there, or like from both the end, like it is rebooting the device.
You mean on the policy, right?
Yeah, policy in the action you mentioned the reset, right?
Let me open that. You mean this, right?
Yeah, correct. So you mentioned server reset client and server,
Yeah.
both sides. So that reset configuration is there or rebooting the
No,
device?
no, it is like sending a reset bit, right? We are having a TCP flag that is having RST. So it will send an
Okay,
RST.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah. The RST flag it will send to both. So like if you set the reset client, so it will send a packet with the RST to the client like a source. If it is to the server, it means to the destination. And if you want to reset on both the ends, so it will send a RST of bit one to both client and server.
Okay, yes.
So in the upcoming sessions, like we will be understanding more about the first I will start with the more basics, that what are the things we are like about this. We will talk about the architecture, that how the firewall process the packets, talk about the packet flow, because that is the different in all of the firewalls. It can be different in the checkpoint or FortiGate firewall, or it can be something else in the Cisco ASA. right? So we will try to understand that how Palo Alto Firewall processes the packet. What are the things we talk about? So that is, I mean, like we are going to talk about the SP3 architecture. I think this is a very uh, common interview question that what is SP3 architecture? So that's what we will cover it up. And then after that, we are going to learn about the policies in detail more. So we have configured a simple policy, but we will understand more like configuring source IP addresses, destination, and then we will go for the NAT. Later on, we will understand about the backups and the upgrade, that how to upgrade your firewall. We will also understand that candidate configuration, or how you can revert if you have any done any configuration wrong, right? It can be happen like you done push something, or you committed any configuration, but it done something wrong on your firewall. So you have to restore some of the things. So that can be how you can do that. Later on, we can cover it up like layer 7 features. So like controlling users based on the user ID, because uh, let us suppose you are having an IP address, and those IP addresses are changing, but your user is you are logging with your user ID on your from your laptop, so that user ID is not changing. So we how we can give permissions based on the user ID. So this also includes the configuration of AD servers. We will integrate it, and with the help of user, with the AD user, we can use in the firewalls, or you can also configure the local users in the firewalls. But usually in the production environment, we take help of the AD server. We do not replicate those users which are already in the AD, and we configure them back in the firewalls. Later on, we will also going to cover as a content ID. So content ID means that whatever the PDF files you are using, and or you want to block any exe file. So it also like using SSL decryption, because right now we are having a HTTPS traffic traveling. So that also we can cover it up. And then we will understand the concept of app ID, highly used, because for the every application we are having an app ID configured in the Palo Alto. So how can we use that one? And the most important questions for the interviewers, that is our IPsec. We will also go for learn for IPsec VPN, that how they are configured and how to troubleshoot, because no interview is completed without question on the IPsec VPN. And the most important thing is our HA, that high availability. So that I'm also going to cover, that how to configure the HA. This is high availability is basically means the redundancy. Like if any of your firewalls goes down, then how make your service running with the alternative, or like a pure peer firewall. So these are the very two important topics for the interviews, the HA and IPsec. But in fact, we cannot ignore any of them, because these are the basics. But yeah, everything I should say that is important, and you don't know that interviewer ask each of the questions. So any questions till now, guys? And regarding the classes, I think these will be on the weekends, and
So timing on the weekend.
weekends timing, it will be from 10 to 11:30, Saturday and Sunday, both the
Okay.
days in the morning. So why I put in the morning, so that you can finish up your classes, and if you got to visit any place, you want to go malls, or want to go anywhere, you are free to go in the evenings. So you want to study, you can like learn the things in the morning, and you are free to go. Because if I put in the evening, then uh, you're stuck. So that's why I prefer to keep it in the morning. So I think just if you want to enroll, then please do faster, because if the people enrolled will be more than 10 or 15, then I have to make one more batch that will be in the evening. So first, I will prefer to go for this. If there's no much enrollments, then it's fine. We will incorporate all the guys to this 10 to 11:30 batch. But if yeah, if there are more, because I don't want to keep the people uh, more in the same batch. Let us suppose there are 50 guys in the same batch, that it's really difficult for them to ask questions, and it does not give me satisfaction that I'm not able to answer all the questions. So if you want to enroll for this morning, that is fine. Or if you are okay in the evening as well, then you can go for the like uh, tomorrow and later on as well. So it just depends. The first I will try to fill up this batch. And these all sessions will be recorded, and you will be provided like access to the portal, and all the recordings will be stored there. So you can watch them later on as well, whatever the sessions I'm going to cover.
We can access the whole the lab also for the practice.
Lab, you have to set up on your machine. I will help you to guide uh, that how to set it up. But yeah, for that one, you have to use your laptop. You have to configure it on your machine, because these are the
But we
labs
can
what are
practice, right? Once you give some experiment like that, we can practice through lab. It is like a paid version in the software like that.
Sorry, I just was your voice was a bit low. Can you come again, please?
So we can practice in the lab, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
we do
definitely.
some
Like
experiment.
you can set up it like as I said in the VMware on your machine, and you have to practice it. Whatever I was using, you can use the same thing, because I will like
Okay.
provide the images the same what I was having. You can use the same thing on your machine. Because lab
Okay.
access, we I do not provide because I don't have. Because if I go with the lab access, then the course cost is going to be quite high, because I have to buy something from other resources, because I do not like I will go to cloud provider any, and then it is like quite high. Around 10,000 the cost will going to increase per person just for the labs. Any other question, guys? Oh yeah, fees is our like let me change the color. It is yeah. The fees will be 49998. That is in Indian rupees, not on the dollars. Oh yeah, dollars will be quite costly, I guess. So that is the course fee. And the duration will be, because around 25 to 30 hours I'm going to cover. So that also just depends that how many questions you are going to ask. So if you understand easily, you don't ask less questions. So it will be this time duration. And if you ask more questions, so it may extend as well. But yeah, I don't want to hurry that I have to finish in these hours. Just the target is just you get the concept and you are comfortable with the learning. So targeting this, I think this can be covered in 2 to 2.5 months. Any other things?
Well, I have one question. Like,
Mhm,
I'm like having CCNA knowledge, but not having a CCNP knowledge, like BGP configuration, all the
mhm.
CCNP level things. So it is okay to jump directly to the firewall or Palo Alto from CCNA,
It's not
or we need
okay.
to.
In fact, I should say it's not okay. This is the right direction you are going, because for the CCNP, we are covered up more with the BGP and MPLS, so that goes to some other directions. But for the security, only CCNA knowledge is sufficient. There's a CCNP is not required at all. So from the this is a like track. You do CCNA, then you choose the option either you go on to CCNP and SD-WAN, or from the CCNA you jump to the security. You learn the firewalls, and after that you can also choose further to go on the clouds, or you can go to the cybersecurity. So like you do some network security and then you jump decide whether you want to go cloud security or you want to go to cybersecurity. So that's the right track. CCNA knowledge is sufficient to go for the security firewalls.
So is it okay to like not need much
Yes,
like
yes,
a basic amount, right?
yeah, CCNA is sufficient. Yeah.
Okay.
Other guys can also speak. There is no problem with that. I see only Maz is speaking, or you might be having a lot of background noise, right? I prefer to speak with you guys. So if you like it, you can speak. If no further questions, I can close it. Expecting to see you in the next class. Okay, Prem says yes. So, okay, I'm just fee structure again. Okay, so fee structure is, I think you see it in the screen. So that is the charges are 4998, and that is not monthly. That is for the entire, like all to course. That is 4998. That is
Anuj,
the
may I have one question? Do
yeah.
we have any fast track classes like that within 2 weeks, like everyday sessions? Is there any possibility like?
No, for the weekdays because like I'm also working, so I do not get time to on the weekdays.
Okay.
Because what I feel that if you the things learn easily and like fast one you do it, but the early you learn, learn the early you forget it. So I will suggest to go it slowly. It will be in your mind, and it will really going to help you in the interviews as well as if you're working on the floor in the real environment. Prem, let it be confidential on which organization I'm working. So
So any certificate we will receive after this course completion.
certification, I think I do not provide because I'm not authorized to give you certificate. But yeah, knowledge only I can give you.
Yeah. Thank you, Anuj.
Okay.
Okay, Anush. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks,
guys.
guys, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Anuj.
you, guys. Okay. Bye bye.